And what is up, everybody? Welcome to Talking Ball, y'all. I'm Cass Hargis, it's Jason Dewey and Lance Lacoste. We're coming to you live on Tuesday night to preview Week 3. Yeah, it's already Week 3. We are just talking about how quickly the season has gone by. We've got an exciting show for you as we preview some of the biggest games in the state. We've got traditional power up north in West Monroe playing North DeSoto, an undefeated matchup. We've got two teams in Lafayette who are used to winning a lot of football games, and one of them is going to be 0-3 after this week. We've got two teams playing for a megaphone down in New Orleans, in Rummel and Shaw. Lance, one that's close to our heart, down in New Orleans. We can't say the Paris this year, but down in New Orleans, we have Holy Cross and Chalmette, who will be playing Friday night at Tad Gormley Stadium. It is the state's longest continuous rivalry between a public and private school. And where's my button here? Joining us to talk about that game, we have head coach Scott Wattigny of the Holy Cross Tigers. What's up, Coach?
What's up, guys? How
are we doing? We're doing awesome, man. We appreciate you hopping on, giving us a few minutes of your time. We know you're busy, but we appreciate it. Dude, I'd like to start here. Struggled a little bit last year. You come out of the gate this year. You go on the road and play a tough ED White team at a place that's difficult to win in a game that was absolutely off the rails. You find a way to win that, score late in the game. Then last Thursday, played De La Salle. You get a pick six early in the game. You hit a big play deep to Carson Chapetta to kind of put it away. Your defense pitches a shutout. You beat De La Salle 20-0. How are you feeling about maybe where you thought you were going to be compared to where you are right now with this team?
Yeah, I mean, as I've said multiple times, really proud of our guys, finding ways to win. It's hard to win in the first place, and it doesn't matter how you win as long as you do win. And, taking a look at the ED White game, it was definitely an electric week 1 victory for us. But what you could see in that week and then leading into week 2 is our immaturity as a team that hasn't played a tremendous amount of football as a group. Our starting quarterback has only played 8 quarters. That's what he's got under his belt as a varsity quarterback, and he's as good as anybody in the state, but he's only played 8 quarters in it, and so we can go, from receiver to offensive line to running backs to, DBs to safeties to corners, linebackers, D-line. Like, we just got a lot of guys that just haven't played a tremendous amount of snaps. And so I think what you see in the 2 weeks is an immaturity on the standpoint of finishing teams when we actually had the chance to finish them way earlier. The ED White game's a good example. It's 14-0 going into halftime. And as I told our guys in halftime, is like, they're not panicking at all. Like, this is a program that's a winning culture that's been doing it for a long time. There's no panic in them in their locker room. They love where they're at 14-0. And, sure enough, we had a chance to get off the field. It was 3rd and long, and one of our more experienced DB players bit on a bubble, and they it was a bubble and go, foxed us, and they pick up a monumental first down and an explosive play, and then they go out and they finish 14-7. And 14-7 is where you want to, if you're Edie White, that's where you want to be at. Mid third quarter, and it's 14-7, and they're in a ball game where, in my opinion, a mature team that's played a ton of football gets you off the field, gets the ball back to your offense. You go up 21-0 midway in the third quarter, and then all of a sudden, Edie White's completely out of their comfort zone because they're not a team built in a quarter and a half to come back from 21 points. And then obviously, the rest of the game is, score for score, turnover, and then an epic finish at the end that, obviously, was in our favor. But then you follow that with week 2, and again, still De La Salle, and we squander 11 points, 3 missed field goals, 2 extra points. 2 of those were touchdown plays that got called back on penalties. So again, like a not finishing, like we had a chance to finish, I think both teams midway through the third quarter and play less snaps and not play nearly as physical of a game. because the game's more out of reach, and we didn't do that. Now, that's the, hey, how do we get better side of it? But the positive in both of those games is the fact that we're 2-0. And anybody that knows, this district and this league and, just our situation here at Holy Cross without having the same amount of players on the sideline as a lot of the teams that we play against, you got to win the first three. It's just a must. Like, you just have to do that. And so we've taken care of 2 of them, and we got a big one this Friday and a rival that's, near and dear to our school and to their school. So, I like where we're at. Still can get a lot better. But that's also good, too. I think that's the mark of a good football team, or potentially a good football team, is, finding ways to win when it's kind of ugly, but still finding a way to win.
Yep.
So, since you've gotten to Holy Cross, I think the best thing you've done is you've put together some great adults in that coach's office. You got another really good coaching staff. I'm watching the stream against LHSAA, and I'm looking at, I know everybody on your sideline, of course, but there's still just another. It feels like you've lost a few, but you've added a few. It looks like you got another great coaching staff. So, just talk to everybody about just how lucky you are to have some of these guys in the coaching staff with you.
Yeah, between 4 of us, myself, Tommy Connors, Mark Sonji, and Larry Favre, we've got over 60 years of head coaching experience. Longtime legendary head coach on the North Shore, Larry Favre, joined our staff. He was previously the principal at Slidell High for the last 3 years. He was the head coach at Eau Perry Walker, the head coach at Fontainebleau, and the head coach at Slidell. So adding him has been tremendous. We also added Christian Haas, who played for me. He was a starting left tackle at Archbishop Pan and graduated in 2017. Went to Arkansas State. He's taken over for the offensive line. We also added Ken Wimberly, another Holy Cross great, went on to Harvard, graduated in 2008 to help out and coach our receivers. And then we hired a D-line guy that, Lance, very well because he works with you at D1. Albert Huggins played professional, played at Clemson. So those have been our additions. And then, we also returned a bunch of guys that have been with me for the last 3 years, or even longer in the last 4 or 5 years here at Holy Cross. And, I think we have a tremendous staff. We're young, but we've got a good mix of old, too, as well. Of older guys that have been around the block. And, it's been a blessing to work with these guys. They're real good. They're excellent at their craft, and they get the best out of their kids. And that's really all you can ask for.
Yep, impressive.
And I guess the other note to say, too, would be is that of the staff, we have 13 guys. 7 of those guys have graduated from Holy Cross. So I think that's important that, you have guys that, wore the colors and, know what this rivalry is like. What's the importance of the tradition and the program's tradition and how to uphold that and be self-accountable for that individually and as a team. It's always good to have guys that can relay that message to a team.
Coach, talking about your team, and last year one of the big things was your defense and how they look. This year you bring back a lot of those guys, Sebastian Perez, Jonah Weir, Savoy Guidry. Can you tell us about the guys that you bring back and how important defense is for your team, especially after pitching a shutout against the De La Salle team that went to the wire against Central the week before?
Yeah. We have a ton of playmaking ability on the defensive side. Like, 2 years ago, we had a ton of playmaking ability offensively. And, you saw us, I think we were the 3rd highest scoring team in Holy Cross's history that year. And, it kind of flipped in 2025. I think we have guys that make standout plays like Savoy Guidry on a pick 6, Sebastian Perez on a big sack. Max Landry literally in 3 plays of a defensive series literally made every tackle, and 3 of them were for tackles for a loss. We have guys that have that ability to just be game changers. Jonah Weir on the opening drive gets a pick, and then returned it to plus field territory and gave us a chance to go score. but we also have the ability to give up plays too. Like as great of playmaking ability we have given up plays in the last 2 games. So if we can hone in on that and not give up as explosive plays and stay on the explosive or on the attack defensively and make those plays, we'll give our offense a chance. And I think we got as good of a quarterback as anybody. And as long as we could eat clock and flip field position, I think we got a chance to win. So, and I'll say this, like Tommy Connors, in my opinion, is the best defense coordinator around. I think he does a tremendous job. He's proven that at a time at Holy Cross when offenses haven't always been, favorable to playing complementary football. Last year is a good example. You hold John Curtis to 6-0 with 4 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. That's something to be said about that. You hold Rummel, 13 points last year. That's something to be said about that. And the list can go on and on and on about those teams that, notoriously are scoring 4 touchdowns a game, and when they play Holy Cross, they're averaging 2. And so that's a credit to Tommy and his staff, and he's got a great staff of guys over there. So blessed to have him and what he does defensively.
Yeah, no doubt. He's I'd also like to say he's a Southeastern Lion Hall of Famer as well, so that makes him even better. I don't think we, us here on the show can overstate the importance of the game this Friday to both of the communities and the schools. But aside from that, with the way that the game ended last year, have you addressed it? Has it been brought up? It was that's one of the most heartbreaking, crazy ways to end a football game. But when it happens in a rivalry game like that, is it something you talk to your team about, or is it something that you just move on from and you just prepare for this year?
No, it's not something that's been highlighted. I think the loss in itself, leads to the implication of how it transpired last year. But everybody likes to look at that one play, but there's so many other plays that led to that loss too, and I know that our guys understand the importance of it. And I think it leads into kind of like a 2-0 start of not finishing, of the message being consistent of like finishing. Hey, you had a chance to finish it last year and you didn't. Hey, you had a chance to really dominate the last 2 weeks and you didn't. So when do we, and my team meeting was, on Friday, because we played Thursday, was really, that was the message. It was like, hey, I've asked you to do 2 things in 2 weeks and you haven't done it. Is week 3 going to be the week that you guys are going to do what I asked you to do, which is finishing? So, it's not, definitely a crazy way. I forget who runs the Twitter for Chalmette, but, as a head coach, I make the 2 top 10 all-time victories in my Chalmette history.
That's right.
My last year at Hannon, the 42-41 overtime win, and then the 9-7 loss. So I've had some epic losses in Bobby Nuss Stadium. There's no question about it. But this game's obviously important. It's important to the community. It's important to both schools. It's a great rivalry. I love playing in it. When I played, and I love coaching in it, and I think everybody's excited about it, and it's 2 really good football teams and 2 really good staffs, and it's going to be a great environment early on. And what I like about it too is it doesn't get talked about as much, and this is not so much about that rivalry, but just in 2 weeks after this game on Friday, we play what I consider the greatest rivalry in the country, Holy Cross Jesuit. So there's so much for our team,
Starting to cut out there. Huh?
Technical difficulties are getting us.
Out of nowhere.
He sounded hoarse. All right, let's see.
Yeah. Couldn't tell if he was getting fired up or.
I was getting fired up.
Oh, yeah. On that break, shout out to Chalmette Twitter. I know they're watching, and the Owl Twitter is the best Twitter out there. Any fact you want about Chalmette football, this dude's got it.
It is definitely entertaining. But just while Coach figures out his Wi-Fi situation, maybe the bell was getting in the way of the signal. That might have been what it was. This game, however, last year we weren't sure what to make of Chalmette at that time when they played. Holy Cross was coming off of a season in which they were the 1 seed in the playoffs. It was still early in the year last year, so we really weren't sure. I think we have a better idea, even with Holy Cross, but especially Chalmette, of what these two teams are capable of and what we expect of them. Like, I think this game is going to be fun because Chalmette, they expect to win. Like, they expect to win the game on Friday. And then Holy Cross is playing really well. They got a hard-fought victory, a big win over De La Salle. This game sets up to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I thought going into last year, it felt like, Chalmette was maybe going to have a down year a little bit just because they had lost so much talent from the previous district championship team that they had. But that proved to not be the case. I think Chalmette High was actually a year ahead of schedule last year, went on to win a bunch of games. You could argue they ended up having the best season in school history. So, that was a loss that early in the season, felt like a really bad loss for Holy Cross later in the season. Didn't look like as bad of a loss for Holy Cross. Chalmette beat just about everybody, but it was a tough way for Holy Cross. I mean, he said it right there, like getting off to a great start to the season in these first 3 games is so crucial to have a great season at Holy Cross. And so, it's going to be obviously another huge one this week. But what's up, Coach? You back?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I mean, my final thought on that was just like, the excitement for our season. There's a lot of build-up. Obviously this upcoming weekend, not looking too far in advance, but you open up district with the best team, in district and in the state and around the country with Carr, and then you follow it up with another rivalry game in week 5. So there's just so many implications that are for our team to get excited about, and obviously Friday night's a huge one. And it matters. You know what I'm saying? It matters. It matters for the remaining of the season. It matters for bragging rights. I mean, I talked about that today on one of the interviews. Was just like, listen, it's a year of being able to, poke your chest out when you go down into Paris, and then it's a year of, kind of you got to tuck tail and lower your head, because people are going to talk about it.
Yeah. And what about just some details about what you're seeing from the Owls? Like, what do you think of their football team? What are the keys to victory for you to bring that victory bell that you were just sitting in front of?
Yeah. So I mean, I think defensively, I think they got a really solid defensive line. One of their guys up front is real good. I think their Mike linebacker is really good. I think they play hard. They rally to the football defensively. So I mean, obviously picking up first downs is going to be important for us. I like their style of defense. I like the way that they have their personality on defense. I think they do a really good job. And offensively, I would say they've decided to throw the ball a little bit more than traditionally. But they also are getting into, they're doing their same stuff. Buck sweep, trap. Tackle trap, they're pulling tight ends, they're pulling fullbacks, they're pulling 3 guys, they're running super counter and all that stuff. Like, they do a really good job, man. I mean, like I said, Jason's a great guy, and he does a good job, and he's done a great job over there for years, and he's assembled a good staff. And so, I think offensively and defensively they do a good job. And then kicking game, the opening kickoff last year really kind of set the tone for the whole game. If anybody remembers, they sky kicked it, to our wing back, and our wing back mishandled it, and we wound up having the ball, on the -20 instead of catching the ball and then probably getting the ball to the -45. So, they're going to sky kick it, squib kick it, put it all over the place. Like, we got to be ready in all 3 phases. I like their quarterback. I think they got some good offensive linemen. They got a good receiver out there that plays for them. So, they got playmaking ability, and they do so much formationally on offense that you got to line up correctly. If you don't line up correctly, you'll wind up getting gashed. So I think if we line up correctly, keys to victory, line up correctly on defense, gang tackle, read pullers, and then force them into throwing the ball when they really don't want to throw the ball. Even though they're throwing the ball more, it's not something that it's not what they're hanging their hat on. They want to run true, wing principle, offensive scheme, run the football, gash people, get explosive plays that way. So I think it's kind of like mirrored to kind of a little bit like Edie White for us, force them into having to throw when they really don't want to. And that's to establish a lead and make them have to come back, which is really what Lakeshore did to them this past week. And then defensively, it's take advantage of spacing, similar to what we did against Edie White and De La Salle. create leverage, use motions, pre-snaps, and just create leverage and high efficiency in terms of passing. Like we got to be able to throw it and catch it, and yards after contact matter.
Awesome.
Jason?
No, I mean, I think everybody has pretty much about covered. But thanks for coming on, Coach. We do appreciate you taking the time. And again, me and Lance are really excited to be calling you games this year. Our third year, Lance.
Third year, yeah.
Geez, third year. But it's been a blast to do it, and then the community has been really great about having us be there. So again, thanks again for having us again.
Yeah, man, it's a blessing to have partnership with BSN again, and thank you two guys for doing it. And Cass, thanks for inviting me tonight, and good luck with the rest of your show.
You got it, dude. I do have one more question for you, Scott, if you got time.
Yeah, I've got time.
Going back, I know you've had success as a head coach really since you started coaching. What have you learned, whether it's about yourself, your processes, your programs, over the last 2 years? Just because you went from such a high, and then you do, what happened last year happens. Like, what have you learned in that time period?
I
didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
No, it's not a spot question at all. I think people are gonna. I think it's easy to look at, climbing the mountain and then something must have happened in order to fall to the bottom of the mountain. But I think anybody that's played in this district or have coached in this district know that it's not favorable for injuries. And it doesn't matter how good you are, what kind of coaches you have. If you get the wrong guy injured on your team, the chances of you winning diminish tremendously. And, the start of our season last year going 1-1 in the first 2 games, but how we played in the week 2 against De La Salle in a 42-6 win with Claude Johnson with 4 touchdowns, super explosive. That trend was happening going into week 3. But when you lose your quarterback in the 6th play of the game, at our school, we don't necessarily have the next guy up that's ready to go do that either. And so I think what we saw in last year's, is that injuries matter. And when you get the wrong guy injured, it's just hard to overcome. Not that our process really changed from year 1 to year 2. Not that there was something that you learned or that I didn't know already. It's just hard, man. It's hard to create. It's hard for kids when kids know that your best chance of winning is no longer on the field. You could try to create as many messages as you want, but when your David is not staring across Goliath and you're having to substitute David for Billy, it's just hard, and I mean, there's no 2 ways about that, and so I think more than anything, Cass, to answer your question is it's trying to create depth when necessarily you don't have depth. Is to maybe have a better answer than and sometimes you just don't even have another answer. Your answer is your answer. You just got to live and ride with it. And we did. And I think that's why, we were so respectable in terms of all the games that we played last year. There were 3 games that we lost less than a score. And I even throw the Curtis game as the 4th one, because again, it's 6-0 with 4 minutes left to go in a game, and it wound up finishing 13-0. But, you got 4 games that easily could flip, and nobody's talking about 3-7, and everybody's talking about another 7-3 season, and then taking a chance of making a run, like we did the following year. So, I know that it looks like we fell to the bottom of the mountain, but at the same time, if you go look at our scores and how we lost, it's just not indicative of something that imploded inside of our program. I just think it's indicative of how difficult this league is to win when you don't have your best players playing.
Yeah, the margins are so small, and things have to go almost perfectly to make sure you end up on that right side of it. That was awesome, Scott, man. We appreciate you hopping on and taking some time to do this, dude. And you don't have any bigger fans than the guys that are on here, so we're rooting for you. Go get them on Friday night, dude.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all so much, man.
Good times. Thank you.
All right, see y'all.
Appreciate Coach Scott Wattigny jumping on and battling through some Wi-Fi issues over there, but he's a fighter. He's a fighter. He made it through. But that's a big one down there. It's obviously it's a fun one. It was a blast to play in and be a part of it. and we had some bad memories, and we had some really good memories as well. So it's always a good time. We could stay in the New Orleans area and go to another rivalry game. Shaw and Rummel. Shaw wins the state championship last year. Rummel, under Coach Nick Monica, the consistency that he's had with his program when those two play, it's always a battle. It's always fun. They're playing for the megaphone down there in I think that game is at Yenny, I believe, this year. But it's good to see. It feels like football in Louisiana, specifically in the New Orleans area, is better when Shaw and Rummel are really, really good.
Yeah, it's such a great traditional matchup. For years, for a time in there, Rummel really dominated. But to see Shaw beat him last year, I think was the first time in a long time, correct? Yeah, and so this is a hot rivalry again now. Now that Shaw got him a win, that I'm sure is great bulletin board material for Coach Monica and that Rummel locker room, right? Can't lose to Shaw 2 years in a row, and so it's been great to see how that one plays out. Rummel got back on track last week, and so I think they're going to be a really tough opponent.
Yeah, I think with the way Rummel was going to come out and play, they're going to try to run the football. We do know that they have, again, two guys, Jaden Terrence making that huge play in the Superdome a week ago on a kickoff return. We know they have some dynamic playmakers offensively, a really big offensive line, and some talent on the defense side, some really experienced guys. Shaw had to make a change at quarterback this year. Obviously, I think it was a wide receiver who converted. It was, I want to say it was Alan Shaw, who it was an all-district cornerback a year ago converting. Yep. So, that's not something that happens overnight, that tweaking, and you're going to go play a really good Rummel defense. Also, all-district college recruit for Shaw goes out for weeks. Carter, I believe it was Rontre Carter. And, it's going to be tough for them to come out in this game, but after having suffered that loss defensively. But again, it should be exciting. We've seen these two teams play some really good ball games over the past few years, and I think this will be no exception.
Yeah, no doubt. And Shaw week 1 faces Carr, and then they get a big bounce back last week against West Jeff. Rummel loses a heartbreaker in week 1 to LCA. Big win against UHI, so that sets up to be a really fun matchup. Another one that involves a New Orleans area team. It's actually being played in Baton Rouge, but your St. Charles Comets, Jason, go up to Dunham, and they take on Elijah Haven and the Dunham Tigers. This is, I think, your quintessential – I'm going to say this. I know Dunham can also play defense, but your quintessential defense versus offense. Elijah Haven and that Dunham offense is so explosive. St. Charles – you think of St. Charles, you think of defense, and you think of special teams. And Coach Wayne Stein's going to have that defense ready to go. That's going to be a fun matchup in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I mean, you also have Jerome Harris, who's a running back for. A lot of people talk about the passing attack, but Jerome Harris is a really talented back out of Dunham. Transferred out of Southern Lab a few years ago. Had to sit out for injury last year, but a really dynamic playmaker. Jarvis Washington's the guy we talked about, but. Again, I think that's really going to be the story is high-powered, explosive offensive. We know St. Charles has weapons offensively, but look, they're content running the ball 50 times in a game, having the time of possession the entire length of the game. And look, you can score every time, but we're gonna force you to make your PAT by playing solid special teams. We're going to force you to kick. If you kick off to us, we're going to try to make you make a mistake and take advantage of it. So the Comets are content playing a 7-6 ball game or a 10-7 ball game. Not to say that Dunham isn't, but again, when you have a high-powered, explosive offense like that, Elijah Haven coming off of a 550-yard week, his receiver coming off a 200-plus week as well in Washington. I think he had 4 touchdowns. It was either 3 or 4 touchdowns in the game. But again, they want their offense on the field, and the Comets are. That's going to be the key. Can the Comets get that offense off the field and maintain possession of the football?
Yeah, I feel like a key to this game really might be St. Charles Catholic's offense. They've got to move the chain. They got to stay on the field. They got to score points. There's no way if St. Charles Catholic's offense is going 3 and out and giving the ball back to Elijah Haven, it could get ugly quick. And so how can we keep Elijah Haven off the field as much as possible, right? And so I think it's really important for Landry, the quarterback,
Yep.
right? Landry, yeah. So Landry,
Landry LeBlanc.
experienced guy. Yep, he's an experienced guy. They have a really good running back. Like St. Charles has the pieces to control this game offensively. And make this thing a real fight down the stretch. But I think that's really the key is staying on the field and not putting your defense in a tough spot versus Elijah Haven.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're going to want to control the football. They're going to want to win the time of possession, but they're going to need to come up with points. And I actually called Landry LeBlanc's first game as a starter last year against Newman, and he looked like a sophomore making his first start. And the growth that he's shown from that point forward, it's been tremendous. Skylar Edwards for St. Charles Catholic is extremely explosive as well. And, we could talk about St. Charles, slowing it down. He could pop one and he could take it to the house, anytime he touches the football. So that I think you're right. St. Charles's offense, not just controlling the ball, but scoring points to put some pressure on Dunham. And, one thing, Jason, you kind of alluded to it, but St. Charles makes the opponent beat them. So Dunham's going to have to play really, really well and capitalize on all their opportunities to go ahead and win that football game.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like it's Cash, baseball pretty well, right? High school baseball, a lot of times it's not so much that one team goes out and wins it, is that one team makes more mistakes. So that's kind of what St. Charles forces you to do. Now, again, you're trying to force one of, if not the best player in the class of 27 to make a mistake, although Brooks Monica at linebacker does a great job. Dax Prejean is a heck of a playmaker for this St. Charles defense, but again, you're going to have to go out and take it. Like deep, just as much offensively as Skylar Edwards needs to make plays, and Walker LeBlanc at wide receiver needs to be doing a good job on that screen game. Like the defense has to come out and make plays and either force turnovers or force a few force a 3 and out. Right against this type of offense, a 3 and out could be detrimental in carrying that football and taking up that time of possession.
Yep, no doubt. That is another really, really good matchup between two really good programs and two really good coaches and people in Wayne Stein and Coach Neil Weiner. Also in the Baton Rouge area, Catholic and U-High. Catholic beats Destrehan in week 1. They beat St. Thomas More in week 2. Again, maybe outside of LCA, that's probably the two best wins in the state. U-High, it's a big win, I think, against Woodlawn in week 1, and then they drop a game to Rummel in the Superdome last week. A game, final score was 30-17. Rummel really pulled away late in the fourth quarter, but anytime these two teams get together, man, it's fun. We talk about Holy Cross and Chalmette being a rivalry with two schools close to each other. Same can be said with Catholic and U-High.
U-High is not avoiding any early tough games, huh? I mean, this is a heck of a schedule again for a smaller school. So I really respect those guys for taking on these battles. But I mean, we've seen what Catholic can do. It feels like a game that they come out and control, as we've seen just recently, right? I'm sure they're gonna play both quarterbacks and control the game. And I mean, they're just such a juggernaut that I feel like these are games that they just win with their program at this point.
Yeah, and look, Catholic had to come back in both of those games. Week 1 against Destrehan, they trailed early on. It was a big pick 6 it was actually first or second and goal, and it actually got returned 90-plus yards. They, again, still managed to come back and come up with a big stand later in that game. Their defense is really good. Their defense is, again, when you have a guy like Blaine Bradford, who is such a playmaker. Jaden Vessel, I've mentioned his name before, is a guy up front, really – a solid defensive lineman. Maxwell Marr, another linebacker for their team. Like, they've got dudes on defense, but man, what is fun is you got some offensive players. They got 3 or 4 guys who are, I think somebody had mentioned, they got like 3 or 4 offensive linemen that are getting recruited to play defensive line in college. Mm-hmm. Like they're really big up front for a smaller school. We mentioned Brown before, but they've got other guys. Like, they've got some weapons offensively, and I think it'll be interesting to see if U-High can continue to play these bigger opponents like they do every year and find a way to slay one of the giants in the state. And I think U-High has as much of a chance as is on that short list of teams that has a legitimate shot to do so.
They did it last year. It was a great game last year. They found a way to win. Speaking of guys, Lamar Brown is the #1 defensive tackle in the country, and he mainly plays offense for U-High. He doesn't. He also plays D tackle, but it's not like he's on defense every snap. He plays offense for them as well. And Lance, you mentioned Catholic winning because of their program, which they do, and that's a real thing. U-High is not going to be intimidated by that. So, that's going to be a fun one. They're going to go get after it. It's going to be fun to watch. Both teams play extremely hard, and they play extremely well. That's going to be a fun game. Baton Rouge, man, they got some games going on up there this weekend. Move on down I-10 from Baton Rouge, and we've got St. Thomas More at Acadiana. And I know we know what their schedules look like leading into this, but I think if you would have said one of these teams is going to walk away with their first win and one of these teams is going to be 0-3, I don't know if we would have ever guessed that, but that's what we're dealing with here. And it's going to be two teams who they always play hard. They're always playing physical. I think it's going to be that much more physical Friday night because both of these teams are going to try to scratch and claw and figure out a way to try to get on the right side of the game.
Yeah, it's crazy seeing these two teams 0-2. Last year, Acadiana beat them 20-7. This year, it just feels like St. Thomas More brings back a starting quarterback. They got more consistency. It just feels like in their program with their coaching staff. It's a tough spot for a new head coach at Acadiana to be 0-2, and now you got what's next, St. Thomas More. And so that's a tough route. But yeah, I mean, I think in matchups like this, just knowing what I do know, I think you lean towards the consistency and the experience of a starting quarterback that you're turning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Cole Bergeron's definitely one of the best in the state returning. Virginia Tech commit, again, whether that remains or not after recent news with that situation, yet to be seen. But he's an incredible playmaker. Look, they've been really close in 2 games against 2 really good ball clubs. Karen Crow, they lose by 3 with a shot to win it at the end. Throws an interception, but it's kind of like an asterisk interception. You're trying to make it force a play at the end of the game, and Chance Babineau, one of the best defensive backs in the state, comes up with a play for Karen Crow. The following week, again, you run into a really good ball club in Catholic. You have the lead. You feel good, and things just kind of get away. I think Acadiana had that rough week 1 against Ruston. Played better last week, although it's going to be tough. Kind of like you guys mentioned, the consistency that we've seen from St. Thomas More and the returners that they have compared to some massive changes on Acadiana. It's to be a good ball game, but I do think Acadiana has a work cut out for them in this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, all 0-2s, I guess, are not created equal. St. Thomas More, like you said, they drop a 1-possession game to Karen Crow, a 1-possession game to Catholic. And for the most part, they played pretty clean football. They just ran into 2 good teams. Acadiana, on the flip side, gets blown out by Ruston. It's a ball game with Zachary, and then they drop a snap on a punt, and then they fumble, and Zachary returns it. Acadiana is going to make those types of mistakes. St. Thomas More is going to capitalize on. This is a team that put up 510 yards of offense on Catholic last week. So it's going to be, I think, if Acadiana can maybe get out to a lead and control the tempo of the game, that's their best chance. But it's going to be, man, they're going to go get after it down there in Scott, Louisiana. That's the boudin capital of the world, by the way, if y'all didn't know that. So go get you some of that. That's right. Come for the football, stay for the boudin. Moving on, I want to talk about these 2 teams. We could do it kind of together. District 2 5A, like we mentioned on Sunday, is undefeated. It's unbelievable, the depth and the quality of that district. And they get 2, not that they haven't had tests before this week, but 3 really, really, really strong tests. We could start with Alexandria going to Destrehan. These 2 teams played last year. Ash won 45-27. I think this game is going to be pretty similar to that score. I think Jackson Fields and Destrehan are going to be able to put up some points. I also think Alexandria is extremely explosive on offense. This is going to kind of be a track meet with the talent that's going to be on that field. But this is a game with Alexandria being in the select side of the bracket. They're not going to meet in the playoffs, but this is a semifinal type of matchup that we're getting in week 3.
I really like how – I just love this scheduling where Alexandria, from where they are, coming down to Destrehan, like going to be a playoff type atmosphere. Jackson Fields, I was watching Friday Night Football with Jackson Fields, looks beautiful. I mean, you can just tell he's a 3-4 year starter that's so experienced, so confident throwing the football around. He's finding Jabari Mack all over the field. And so I know they got a great team. I remember seeing this score last year when Ash beat them, And that was like my clue that like, oh, this Ash team might be really good this year. And so it proved to be, and so yeah, this is a really fun matchup. I really like when, in school is kind of get on the road and go find these type of matchups in the not the preseason, but early in the season.
Yeah, and I think it was this past weekend. Don't quote me on this, but I know they were playing Union Parish, and I turned the game on, and I believe they scored. It was 4 offensive plays in a row. Guys, if I'm exaggerating, it's not by much. Every time they touched the ball, it was an explosive play. They look really explosive offensively, and I think defensively, man, they've got some dudes. Bryson Phoenix, who's a guy who's really been up and coming this year, defensive end, a big playmaker. Alex Fontenot and Carson Sellers, the quarterback wide receiver combo, really looked explosive. Then you got that sophomore running back in Cason Williams, who's been bolting around as well. I think this is going to be the biggest test for this team. Taking on Deathran, obviously on the road, that's never an easy place to play. But I think this could be one of the games of the year. This early on, I think this could be definitely a game we look back and say, man, do you remember when we watched that game where Deathran played Ash? And I think this is going to be a really fun one to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, you go back to last year and what Ash was able to do for 14 weeks, and it's almost like everyone forgot about that because of what happened to him in the Dome car. And it's almost like you got to throw that out. Like, this Ash team is for real. That program, it's real. And they are, they're not backing down from anyone. And they're going to be playing to go to the Superdome and have a chance to win the state championship again. And this is a matchup that's going to get them ready for that. Staying in District 2 5A, Ruston, they were in Arkansas or hosted an Arkansas team last week. They now begin a string of 3 straight weeks of playing a team from Texas. They will host Longview, Texas, and this is not just another team from Texas like Longview. They're 2-1. Their one loss was last week to South Oak Cliff. South Oak Cliff has been in the Texas 5A state championship 5 years in a row. Like that, they're unbelievable. So for Longview to lose to them by 3 points is extremely impressive. Ruston they're going to have their hands full. This is going to be some state bragging rights. Everybody hears about Texas high school football. Ruston has a chance again. They beat them last year. Ruston has a chance again to kind of change that narrative up in Ruston, Louisiana this weekend.
Yeah, Texas high school football is great, but one of the programs I always think of when I think of Texas high school football is Longview. Like, I just remember being in college, and that was the logo that I seen around the locker room or I seen in the coaching staff. Just because there's always talent. I'm sure at every school, every college has guys that at some point, we're at Longview. And so yeah, definitely it feels like a flagship high school of Texas. So to see them come to Ruston is pretty freaking cool. And so be great. Obviously we're going to cheer for Louisiana team. We've seen Ruston beat just about everybody else. So why can't they take down Longview?
I'm interested to see how we talked about how Ruston likes to run the football and how their offensive line has been really solid and their running backs have made All-State behind these offensive lines a few years in a row. Powell is a really good running back. Powell is really impressive. And behind that offensive line, he's looked like a top 10 player in the state as a sophomore. I mean, he's looked really impressive. But of course, you still have Ahmad Hudson on the outside. I'm interested to see how this offense matches up against this Longview defense. We do know that, as you mentioned, like this is I think I looked up. I think they were ranked in the top 20 in the state. Which is, I don't know how many teams are in the state, but compared to Louisiana, I think I know Kez, how you would have a better idea than me. How many teams are in the state of Texas?
A lot.
A lot. That's a great number. A lot.
Yeah, a lot. But yeah, they are one of the best. Like they're one of the best.
So it'd be great to see that one play out.
Yeah, no doubt. Then the other big program up in 2-5A, West Monroe, we mentioned them on Sunday. Coach Dodger seems to, and it's been 2 weeks, but they seem to kind of be getting their mojo back. They seem to be playing West Monroe football. Now they are going to travel to North DeSoto, who is ranked number 2 right now in Class 4A. Both teams are undefeated going into this game. So this is going to be, can West Monroe do it again? Can they continue to keep it rolling? And can North DeSoto put another feather in their cap with a huge victory on Friday night?
Yeah, The main thing I know about that North DeSoto, so North DeSoto, Mansfield, Logansport, those schools currently are pouring a bunch of resources and money into their athletic programs, and it's showing on the field. I mean, they're 2-0, but I've seen pictures of the facilities when I was up in Northwest Louisiana just a couple weeks ago. They were talking a lot about Logansport and North DeSoto and just how nice their facilities are, and just there's a real commitment from that little area of the state, which is kind of Southwest Shreveport, pretty much. And so, but yeah, there's a real commitment in that area of the state to really grow their athletic programs, their facilities, their football program. And so, I guess with all that said, it's a tall task, of course, for North DeSoto going to West Monroe, kind of like, new kid on the block going to the, big brother, I guess. But I do know that there's a lot of pride in that North DeSoto program, and they're not going to go in there and be scared of this West Monroe team for sure.
Look, no doubt. And this North DeSoto team, I would argue, is up there in that conversation. I think they've never won, according to what I've looked up, they've never won a state title. And they're in the thick of it. I think they have a ton of talent on this team. Maybe one of the best wide receiver, quarterback and running backs in the state. When you look at it as a tandem, you got Luke Delafield, who's a guy who committed to Northwestern State, can really spin the football, does a good job. And you have Kenny Thomas, who had 2,000 yards last year, 32 touchdowns. I mean, not a bad back. You got Doyle at linebacker on the other side. Like, they've got guys that can make plays, but we know that this West Monroe, when I think you've talked about it last week or the other day, Cass, it's like the state feels different when West Monroe is really good. And we're going to see how much West Monroe is feeling themselves going into this game. This is going to be a big test. It's only one difference in classification, 4A versus 5A. But this should have a massive feel to it. So I think this is going to be a huge tell early on which team is a contender. And I still think both of these teams could be contenders in their respective divisions.
Yeah, no doubt. They played last year. West Monroe won 63-17. So, North DeSoto is going to be coming they probably had this game circled. Also, just to add another layer, and this isn't new, he's been there for 6 years now, but Dennis Dunn's the head coach at North DeSoto. So while their program at North DeSoto may not have won a state championship, their head coach knows his way around the Superdome from his time at Evangel. So he's had some epic battles with West Monroe in the past, and he's looking to do it again and have another one here on Friday night. Also, Friday night, where else do y'all want to go? So we mentioned those games there that kind of stood out. One on Thursday night I'd like to mention is Turlings Catholic and Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. Both teams 2-0. Michael Kerrville, his first year at Turlings Catholic, they had two really big wins in their first 2 weeks. They beat Opelousas in week 1. I don't know who they played last week, but I think they beat them pretty handedly. Notre Dame kind of had a down year by their standards last year. Coach Louis Cooks seemed to get that thing right back rolling. The down years to them or years that other teams wish they could have. But this is these two teams play annually. It's a real rivalry down there in the Lafayette area, and that's going to be a Notre Dame again. They're going to want to be physical. They're going to want to run it right at you. They're not going to back down from anybody. Turlings Catholic has some weapons. They have a really good quarterback in Munoz that can spin it a little bit. They've been fun to watch, and this is something I know. As they were building that program, Turlings was like their measuring stick for the longest time was, can we beat Notre Dame? Can we beat Notre Dame? They got the team to do it this year.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lance.
No, I didn't really have it. I was looking at different games. Go for it.
No. I mean, I was going to say though. No, and then Case and Evans is a really solid back for that Turlings team. Some LSU connections in this one. Casanova, the tight end for Notre Dame, actually, again related to Tommy Casanova back in the day. His brother's actually in college playing, but when I got to watch some of that Southside football game, they went up 21-0 in that game. Very physical early on. I think that's going to be what's going to be key in that game. How physical can Notre Dame be? They do like to run the football and play smash mouth football, but they also can sit in the gun, kind of pass the ball a little bit. But really the physicality of their defense has been a staple. That is something that's known across the state. So I think it's going to be a really fun one to watch, that offensive Turlings versus that defensive Notre Dame.
Yep, no doubt. What game were you going to, Lance?
Well, I was going to mention, so I was talking to, Terrebonne played Riverside a couple weeks ago. So Riverside, when I talked to their coaches, they really praised this Terrebonne team, said that this Terrebonne team was really good, really tough. And so they are hosting St. James. So that feels like a great opportunity for a program that I'm sure in Terrebonne is, looking for some respect, and they get to host, certainly the best known program out in that area, right? And so that feels like a really good matchup that I'll be keeping up with. Both 2-0.
Yeah, that is going to be a good one. Terrebonne, was it 2 years ago? I don't think it was last 2 years ago. They beat Destrehan, I believe.
That sounds right.
It may have been.
That sounds about right. Yeah, it was recent. No, it was recent. It was a few years ago. But again, some other games I was kind of keeping an eye on. Franklin Parish versus Calvary Baptist. This is a massive game. Franklin Parish came out with a 32-28 win a year ago. And Franklin Parish, when we just talking about North DeSoto, I really think this could be I think Franklin Parish and North DeSoto are kind of vying for that one spot right now in that Division II non-select bracket.
Yeah. They're ranked 1 and 2 in the Sports Writers polls
as they should be as of this point. Yeah. But when you look at Franklin Parish, this is going to be their first true test. Yeah. They, again, came up with a challenge last year and came away with the victory. We know Calvary can basically go 5-5, and it's because, they're a small school playing these really good programs, but they can still come out with a win. We know Calvary has a lot of talent across the field, especially Braylon Huglong, who's a junior receiver / cornerback, a ton of looks across the state. While on the other side, Franklin Parish has like four guys going D1 right now. Some really athletic guys in Ellis. Ellis is one of them, and Trey Martin is a junior that's getting some recognition, getting looked at. Taven Bell, Texas State commit. Chris Addison is a guy who's committed to Michigan State. Like, Franklin Parish has some dudes on their team, and they're able to rotate a bunch of guys in and out. I'm really interested to see how this game turns out, especially with it being on the heels of Franklin. Like I said, Franklin Parish 1 and 2 in the state with North DeSoto. I'm just really fascinated to see it.
Yeah, we talked about the Destrehan Ash game with the potential for being high score, and I think this one can be as well. Mm-hmm. And I think this one could turn into a shootout pretty quickly. And Calvary's no stranger to games that look like basketball scores, and I think this one may be another one. Zachary and Karen Crow. Zachary goes to Karen Crow again. Another, you're traveling, not necessarily across state, but you're getting out of your area. 2 big time programs going at it. Karen Crow beats St. Thomas More, loses to LCA. Zachary beats Acadiana, comes in 2-0. Coach Brewerton seems like they're kind of getting back to where you expect Zachary to be. But going down to Karen Crow and playing in the Crow Dome is not an easy place to play. That's going to be a good one. And can Karen Crow do it 3 weeks in a row? They got up to play St. Thomas More and they win. Obviously, there's a big rivalry with LCA. They play a tight one and end up losing late. Can they get back up for this Zachary team and turn in another really good performance?
That's a tough stretch for any team in the state, though. We talk about how some teams got some really brutal opening stretches. Karen Crows is up there with anybody in the state, and to be 1-1 sitting here now really speaks to how good of a team they can be this year. Now, I think there's a great matchup with Zachary. I think this is going to be Zachary's, I'd say probably their biggest test of the year, because we've seen what Karen Crow can do to some really good football teams. But, I'm that road trip, right? We talked about these playoff 5 games. It's a playoff 5 game. So I think it's going to be a really fun one to watch.
Yep.
Yeah, it just feels like there's like a circuit of really good teams from Baton Rouge to Lafayette all playing each other early in the season, right? It feels like some of the best. It's kind of the best slate of like week 1 to week 3 games I can remember. It's really cool to see these matchups. Cass, I was going to point out, you're going to know these teams way better than me, but Jules Sumner beating the Kangaroos of Kentwood last week. Yeah. I thought that one jumped off the screen to me. I thought that was a huge win for those guys, and so now they are 2-0 and they host Laranja. In my mind, Laranja is usually a good program. Kentwood's usually a great program. Jules Sumner is now in the mix with both of them.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is a little bit of a rivalry too. And I was gonna mention that game after this one. So we're thinking alike there. Jules Summer's been a team that they've kind of been middle of the road for the last few years, but they've been able to score some points. LaRanger, on the other hand, my man, give a shout out to Coach Chris Powell. This is his first season. He was offensive coordinator for LaRanger before under Sammy Messina. This is his first year as the head coach. He's doing a tremendous job. He's done a great job through the first 2 weeks of the season. He was really excited about his team. They returned a lot of experience. They were very young last year, young and inexperienced. This year, all those guys are back. They have a really, really good running back. They play some really, really good defense. These two teams, they're going to be physical. LaRanger's going to want to pack it all in, put everybody in the box, and run it right at you. Jules Summers a little more apt to throw it around a little bit, but you mentioned going to going to Kentwood and winning under the tank. And Jules Summer, they play in the hole. So LaRanger's going up there. It's a good atmosphere. That would be a really, really big win for LaRanger. LaRanger's district. It's LaRanger, it's Franklinton, it's Lakeshore, and Pearl River and Hannon. But that district's no slouch. So if any wins that they can get early on, it's going to be huge for that program.
And I hadn't gotten to see Pearl River of that list, but I forgot who it was. I was talking to a coach, and he said, "Man, Pearl River might have been the best team we saw last year." So I know Pearl River is a team that's up and coming too. But in the game you guys mentioned, two really great running backs, like you said. LaRanger has James, who was again a really talented running back, making some moves this year, and for Jules Summer, Smith in the backfield. I know Smith is a really good back, so it'll be interesting to see how that one looks. But a fun matchup for sure. Two teams that are trying to kind of rise to the occasion. And I think it's always fun to kind of catch some of these matchups out there that, aren't the Catholic League or aren't, I've always been terrible. 2-5A. That's the other district. But again, I think 1-5A has an interesting one as well in Houghton and Parkway. Parkway is a team that was making a push last year. Their quarterback, Caleb Williams, went down for a large portion of the year. Maybe translates more to receiver at the next level, but a really solid playmaker. On the other side, you got Taylor Weatherby, who is a really nice quarterback for Houghton. Not the season they wanted last year. Didn't have a ton of wins, but this is a great opportunity for them coming off of an overtime win against Byrd. Weatherby is actually the first quarterback since a guy you may know, Dak Prescott, to throw for 3 consecutive games over 250 yards last season. And he threw for 300 last week. He's really done a great job at the quarterback position. But again, they have a great relationship with his wide receiver, who also went for 290 last week. Of his 350, 290 went to his receiver. I'd love to be able to get his name, but it's Ethan Johnson. Ethan Johnson had a big game as well. So I think that'll be a fun one to watch. And it's a big test for Houghton, who's looking to make a name for himself this year.
And this is district 1-5A starts district this week. It's such a big district. I feel like district 1-5A reminds me of like the 2009 to 2015 Big 12, where it's like a low scoring game is going to be 45-40. I mean, those offenses, they throw it all around. They're well coached, and they put up points in bunches. And it's almost like yes, you're going to have to outscore people, but the team that can play the best defense, and by defense, like just slow the other team down enough, that's going to be the team that wins the majority of these games.
It's the opposite of the Catholic League. Like I can't even understand what it looks like because of what I'm so used to seeing down here.
Yep. No, it is. It's very, very different. Very different. Another one just to maybe keep our eye on is Madison Prep and Southside. Southside is Madison Prep going from Baton Rouge out to Southside. Southside opened up their new stadium. They lost to Notre Dame in week 1. They bounced back and win last week, but that's an interesting one. Madison Prep is so talented. They're extremely talented. Southside under Coach Curtis is going to want to put you into the box and run it right at you, and again, be really, really physical with you. So that's going to be kind of a clash of styles with Madison Prep and Southside.
Yeah. Should be a fun one. Varese, a really solid linebacker for that team too. For Madison Prep, we mentioned a ton of athletes. Outside with did I tell you the name of the stadium? It's beautiful. It's the
Shark
Reef.
Tank.
The Shark Tank. I heard it was the Reef.
Know.
I heard it was the Reef.
The Reef.
The Reef. Yeah, I kind of dig it. Pretty cool name, but beautiful facility. They were playing. I think they were sharing Como's stadium a year ago.
They were playing between Como and St. Martinville. It was crazy. It was crazy what they were doing. Good colors too, by the way. Southside, good colors.
It seemed like a created team. You know, like when you create teams and stuff, like the Sharks, cool colors, too nice of a stadium. Like it's not real.
So
I used to live in Youngsville, Louisiana. There are no sharks in Youngsville, Louisiana.
Where did Sharks come from?
So when back in the day when EA would have create a team on the game, the Tyburn Sharks would be the automatic team. It's like it's almost like they went in and were like, yeah, that'll work. Like let's pick that uniform. And that's it.
100%. That is correct. All right. Well, we touched on a bunch. Y'all got any more, Jason?
One more. Mansfield, Northwood of Shreveport. Kyron Johnson, really talented running back. Mansfield had to come back again, 35 down in week 1. Week 2, they had to come back down late in the game. Really should be interesting to see those two undefeated teams going at it.
Mansfield is the capital of speeding tickets. So if anybody's going to that game, take your time.
That's good advice. That's the stuff nobody tells you. You're rushing to get there, and then all of a sudden you get a ticket.
This is why you stay on for the whole hour. You know?
Sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it makes me feel better. The capital of hidden traffic speeding cameras is Belle Chase, Louisiana. Which, when I was in college, I got a speeding ticket from the same one driving from Baton Rouge to call games at Belle Chase 2 weeks in a row. So. The same one in the same spot with no lights and no speed signs to know what the speed was. So that's also another one to keep an eye out for out there.
Learn from your mistakes. Got to learn from your mistakes. See that? You thought you were coming just for some football. Now you know what traffic lights and where to avoid speeding tickets. But so y'all will be at Holy Cross and Chalmette on Friday night. That should be a fun one at Tad Gormley. I like that Holy Cross is playing at home at Tad Gormley. I got to be honest with you, though, Lance. It just doesn't feel right if it's not being played at Bobby Nuss. I think it's just always maybe because it's always been there, but something like that game should be played at Bobby Nuss.
It's hard to catch Rocky and Carlos on the way to Tad Gormley.
I know.
So
I agree.
I know Rockies is probably making a petition to figure this thing out, but I kind of agree. It's one of those things where we understand why it needs to go to Holy Cross every now and then. At the same time, I think all of us love that night in the Parish, sitting in Bobby Nuss Stadium and watching Holy Cross and Chalmette. But I also think that there's some bad Greekery at the Owl Stadium, as you saw last year. There's been some really weird wins at Bobby Nuss. And I don't think you have that same Greekery at the Catholic League Cathedral.
No, the Catholic League Cathedral. No, I agree. The really weird win last year, and then there's that other one that we won't speak of. But some crazy stuff happens down there. But so that'll be fun. I again am going to sit on the couch with my son, and we are going to watch as many games as possible. Y'all get on BSN, and you can have a heck of a Friday night. There's so many good high school football games that are being played, and it's going to be another fun week. Man, we are flying through the season. It's week 3. Next time we do this, we're going to be headed into to week 4. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's been a lot of fun. So that's going to do it for the show tonight. We appreciate y'all hopping on and joining us. Y'all enjoy your week. Enjoy your football Friday this weekend. And we will see y'all again on Sunday night. Y'all have a good one.